So last time we talked about the warriors and heroes of the storm, and what makes them unique, the sort of subclasses within the role, and some strategies for playing the warrior heroes. This week we're going to be talking about the assassins, both melee and ranged. We'll be talking about how you should play them, which heroes work better in certain situations, etc. So let's just get right to it. At the time this video was made, there are 8 assassin heroes. Kerrigan, Nova, Falstad, Vala, Illidan, Raynor, Zeratul, and Tychus. Kinda. I say kinda because Tychus is basically a ranged bruiser warrior. He can take the path of the warrior talent, which makes him pretty tanky, and his base damage is obnoxiously low for an assassin. I mean, he has much higher attack speed, which kinda makes up for the lack of damage, but come on Tychus, you're not fooling anyone, you're just an assassin that wants to be a warrior. Putting all tangents aside, assassins are going to be the main source of damage for your team. They're going to be the ones you want to keep alive during team fights so your team can come out on top. Now, there are 2 different kinds of assassins. There's the ranged assassins and the melee assassins. The ranged assassins are typically pretty squishy, so their job is to deal their damage from afar, staying as far away from the enemy heroes as possible. Now, if you're your team's ranged assassin, I better never see any of you put yourselves within melee range of the enemy because that shit is infuriating. What's cool about the ranged assassins is that each one has something about them that makes them good at being ranged assassins. To give a couple examples, Falstad is a highly mobile hero who is able to kite enemies really well with barrel roll, while his W will passively damage nearby enemies. Nova, on the other hand, while not being as mobile, has a pretty long range for her auto attacks and for her snipe. Her combat trait is also a permanent cloak, which allows her to position herself where she needs to be without the enemy noticing. The melee assassins are a different story, though. They have to get up close and personal with the enemy in order to do their damage, so their jobs can be a bit more dangerous. Basically, the job of the melee assassin is to position themselves to where they can burst down the enemy assassins to remove their team's damage potential, while still letting the warriors soak up all the damage. This can be difficult to do successfully, but the melee assassins tend to have something in their kit that will help them either get in and out quickly, or will help them sustain themselves while they're in the middle of the fray. Zeratul has his blink, which lets him either close gaps or quickly disengage fights if he has to. Illidan's combat trait, Betrayer's Thirst, gives his basic attacks 20% lifesteal, and his W, Sweeping Strike, is also a good gap closer or disengage. And Kerrigan is pretty much about getting you to come to her, using Primal Grasp to pull you close to her, then stunning you with Impaling Blades to keep you close, and using Ravage if you try to escape. Now, like some of the warriors had their Path of the Warrior talent that buffed their health, some of the assassins can take Path of the Assassin, which gives them an extra 2 attack damage per level, giving them a pretty big spike in damage. And again, I'm not saying that you have to take Path of the Assassin every time you get the chance. I mean, there are going to be times when taking other talents is going to be the better option. I'm just saying that it's generally a good and safe talent to take on the heroes that can take it. So what did we learn today? We learned that assassins are a big chunk of your team's damage and that you should generally try to keep them alive. Every assassin, both ranged and melee, have their strengths which set them apart from each other. The Path of the Assassin talent is usually a good choice for the heroes that can take it. And for God's sake, if you're ranged, don't deliberately put yourself in melee range! Please, I'm begging you, just don't do it.